Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Satwanti Kapoor from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today I shall be speaking on the module Life Course Induction of Adiposity from the paper Applied Anthropology. The learning outcomes of this module are to elucidate the induction and tracking of phenotype, to delve into the mechanism involved in body composition induction, to describe the induction of body size, to explain the induction of neonatal body composition, and to describe the induction of body composition by fetal experience. Also, to find out how body composition is induced in childhood, to find out the induction of rate of maturation, to explore the effect of transgeneration and the limitations in a phenotypic induction. Now first we'll have a brief discussion introducing the subject. First we will have a discussion on the introduction and tracking of phenotype. Now the content of body fat and its distribution varies across the life course and between genders up to a great extent. Sexual dimorphism is seen from fetal stage and subsequently increases from puberty and gradually decreases with aging. Besides this ontogenetic pattern of development, which is unique in humans, individual growth trajectories and the influence of environment on adiposity should be taken into account. Understanding life course induction of adiposity would highlight the role of adipose tissue and lean mass in biological functions and the projections of adiposity of one generation in relation to the experience faced in the previous generation. Adiposity is expressed according to the size and physique. This module delineates the different aspects of body composition in the developmental trajectory of lifespan. Early life energy stores are essential components for this trajectory, and it could also be linked to reproductive function, especially among females. Now we'll take one by one. Induction and tracking of phenotype. During 1960s, nutritionists McCains and Widdowson demonstrated that those rats who were malnourished in early infancy had low body weight throughout life, while those who suffered malnourishment later in life had temporary loss of weight which were easily recovered with proper intake of food. Davison and Dobbing in 1968 gave the concept of period of sensitivity or critical windows in the developmental process. This concept says that the long-term effects on the phenotype of organism are generated by environmental factors. The affected outcomes are body size, body composition, the rate of maturation, metabolism, and risk of lifestyle diseases. In 1991, nutritional programming concept was brought by Lucas, which says that nutrition in early life affects the health status later in life. Waterland and Garza in 1999 also brought in the concept of metabolic imprinting, which means that environmental stimuli have a tendency to affect permanently the structure and function of organism. However, Bateson in 2001 criticized programming since it gives an incorrect suggestion that early environmental stimuli consist of instructions for disease later in life. He has argued that the concept of phenotypic induction is more relevant as it fits closely with the developmental biology. In recent times, programming is used by those researchers involved in early life etiology of certain diseases. Those involved in evolutionary and developmental biology use the concept of phenotypic induction. According to Wells, 2009, metabolic capacity refers such physiological traits that shows close association with organogenesis, that is formation of organs, and are sensitive to experience during the fetal stage. Metabolic load refers to the growth in the size and mass of tissue. When metabolic load exceeds metabolic capacity, risk of disease becomes greatest. Phenotypic induction consists of two components. Example, the difference in phenotype which emerges during initial critical window periods and tracking the phenotype once the critical period gets over. A trait becomes resistant to environmental conditions when it is canalized and process the self-righting ability that generate early transient effects under environmental stress, and the trajectory is retained once the stress is removed. Such plasticity in gaining weight and height as well as canalization of growth after the infant stage is seen in humans. As such, many metabolic capacity tracks into adulthood, and due to this metabolic load increases which needs to be normalized for maintaining homeostasis. Those individuals with least metabolic capacity have little capacity to achieve this normalization, hence leading to appearance of symptoms of chronic disease like glucose intolerance and hypertension. Induction of body composition is firstly done through early nutrition or growth patterns. This kind of induction is brought through epigenetic changes or through the effect of hormones relating childhood growth. Secondly, an important component of variability in growth rates from fetal life onwards is body composition, which is adiposity and lean mass. Lean mass includes the sum of mass of all organs such as the heart, liver, kidney and pancreas besides muscles, which is vital to metabolic capacity and can also contribute to metabolic load when there is increase in muscle mass during childhood and adolescence. Next is mechanisms involved in induction of body composition. The mechanisms of body composition induction are induction of appetite, rate of maturation, hormonal excess and epigenetic modifications. Epigenetic mechanism can be seen in the case of fathers exposed to famine producing offspring with increased risk of obesity, but this mechanism usually operates in the mothers. Now, phenotype of mother does not only induce body composition but even the rate of maturation. Next is induction of the size of the body. Induction of body size is reflected by height and body mass index. Height can vary according to the rate at which height is attained, and one does not lose height before attaining adulthood. Twin studies have thrown light on the association between early patterns of growth and later height because such studies remove the confounding by genetic factors. Difference in birth weight in monozygotic twins were found to be significantly correlated with differences in adult height, demonstrating that intrauterine experience has greater effect on adult height but a weaker effect on adult weight. Other studies have revealed that birth weight predicts height later in life. Studies have also identified different periods of time during which early life experience affects growth in rate. A British cohort of 2,547 girls born in 1946 were found to be associated with height in 2 years but was not associated with change in height between 2 and 7 years. Girls who were heavier at birth reached menarche earlier than their counterparts. Association between birth weight and BMI have been demonstrated in many studies. It has been found that each kilogram increase in weight at birth was associated with 0.5 to 0.7 kg meter square of BMI. This implies that those who were heavier at birth were also fatter and they happen to preserve their fatness even into later life. A J-shaped or U-shaped association between birth weight and BMI reflect a high prevalence of adiposity in low or high birth weight. However, much of these studies only show that faster growth in fetal life leads to bigger size without distinguishing how general and regional adiposity is affected. Next is induction of body composition of neonatal. Evidence of neonatal induction can be seen from the studies done on effect of gestational age at birth. At birth, neonates have low levels of body fat because maximum fat deposition occurs at last trimester of pregnancy only. Infants who are born preterm and fed ex utero in the last trimester struggle to gain energy to achieve deposition of fat in utero. Full term age is reached, preterm babies continue to show low levels of fat, and this continues into mid childhood. Experience during fetal life affects body composition in neonates. This is supported by analysis of phenotypes at birth. The influence of intrauterine retardation of growth on birth phenotype was strongest in the final trimester of pregnancy. Neonates that were small for gestational age had reduced ponderal index, that is weight adjusted for height, lower percentage of fat and decreased concentrations of leptin. Supplementation studies on malnourished women have revealed modest improvement in birth weight, and the improvement could be seen only among women who were most malnourished at baseline. Weight gain during pregnancy is positively correlated with birth weight only in the offspring of mothers who had low weight at baseline. This indicates relatively modest influence of gross energy intake of mothers on the birth size of their offspring. Mothers who consume a high glycemic index diet produced offspring who were heavier and had higher ponderal index than their counterparts. Also, women with gestational or type 1 diabetes produced fatter offspring. Thus, phenotype of a mother is essential in the induction of fetal body composition, more important than diet during pregnancy. When there is adequate supply of maternal energy to the fetus, body composition at birth shows a high level of lean mass and peripheral distribution of fat mass. When the maternal energy is restricted, then masses of both lean and fat mass decreases in the offspring with preservation of central fat at the peripheral fat expense. Next is induction of body composition by fetal experience. There has been a number of studies which explores the association between birth weight and body composition. Birth weight acts as an imperfect proxy for the environmental experience faced in the fetal stage, because those with average or high birth weight may have weakened in the earlier trimester and those with low birth weight would have grown poorly during the last trimester. Those who experienced maternal famine during first trimester had increased risk of adult obesity, while those who experienced maternal famine during last trimester had reduced risk of adult obesity. Female offspring who were undernourished have a more deposition of fat at the center. The third trimester is a critical period for deposition of fat. Higher values of adult BMI may represent lean mass rather than adiposity. In the first trimester of pregnancy, growth retardation is associated with increase in size during birth. These findings reveal maternal or offspring genotype rather than the life course induction of adiposity. During famine condition, fatter mothers would have conceived more easily and thrifty offspring would have higher rates of survival. A large size at birth induce lean mass in greater amounts and in proportion to stature. Thus, induction of lean mass of adults by fetal growth leads to achievement of normal duration of pregnancy. Long-term programming of hormones might be a possible factor for the association between early and late body composition. Fat stores in neonates may be vital for providing energy for lean mass deposition in infants. Many studies have reported negative association between size at birth and adult adiposity, which is dependent on adjustment of current size using statistical methods. This could be explained by the account of variability attributable to postnatal rather than prenatal growth patterns. Association of birth weight with later adiposity directs to the issue of association between variability in size at birth and variability in adiposity at birth. This is referred to as a thin fat phenotype, which comprises of reduced lean mass but high fat mass. However, it remains unresolved whether such a thin fat body reflects a thrifty genotype effect or not. Hence, fetal experience induce later body composition, the effect being more pronounced for lean mass indices than for adiposity indices. Weight gain during the postnatal stage, which is associated to fetal growth, is vital for the induction of adipose phenotype. Therefore, birth weight may predict body composition without neonatal body composition being the cause of the pathway. Now, let us discuss about postnatal growth induction of body composition. Weight gain during postnatal stage makes a pivotal contribution to onset of adult disease. Risk of metabolic syndrome is highest among those who were born small and gained most weight during postnatal period. This reveals the importance of the difference in rate of growth between different stages of life course and emphasizes the relative contribution of different stages of postnatal gain in weight to adult phenotype and disease risks. Rapid infant growth is associated with greater abdominal obesity. The effect of gain in weight on adult body composition differ between industrialized and developing countries. In European countries, greater gain of infant weight is associated with later weight, height, waist circumference, fat mass and lean mass increase. In children and adolescents, whereas among non-Western populations, weight gain of infant is associated only with later height, weight and lean mass increase but not fat mass. A vital factor mediating growth of infant is the duration of the catch-up growth, which is associated with later fat mass and risk of being overweight. This happens only when the catch-up growth persists beyond the first year of life. Now, low birth weight babies happen to be sensitive to insulin at birth that helps in the promotion of catch-up growth during infancy. When this catch-up growth prolongs beyond infancy into early childhood, insulin resistance develops, which leads to accumulation of fat in the abdomen region. Excess accumulation of fat occurs after 1 year of life. The gain of weight in first 8 days of life was significantly associated with risk of being obese in adulthood. Weight gain in preterm babies in the first 2 weeks of postnatal stage was significantly associated with insulin resistance during adolescent stage. Those who were on low nutrient diet were found to have reduced insulin resistance during adolescence, which could be due to slower rate of growth. This may likely represent the change of nutrition from placenta to oral nutrition and the intake of low energy food by breastfed infants. Stunting is associated with increased risk of obesity since it may predispose the individual to increased intake of energy or induced metabolic rate. The mode of feeding of infant has been associated with differences in growth rates or in body composition during infancy. Now, breastfeeding is associated with decreased risk of obesity later in life as suggested by body mass index, but studies that have focused on body composition have failed to support this hypothesis. It is unclear whether biological component of breast milk might decrease growth rate or whether the easier way of formula feeding that maximize intake could promote growth rate. There is need for further studies to address the differences between Western and non-Western countries with respect to early life induction of adiposity to further implement the policies for care of infants. Childhood induction of body composition. Gain in weight during childhood also influences later body composition. Adiposity rebound, that is the age at which the childhood BMI reaches a nadir or its lowest point before increasing again, was a significant predictor of adiposity, but in recent time it is considered as a misnomer because rebound is a function of the magnitude of initial BMI. It is not certain whether weight gain during childhood is an induction of phenotype since linear growth is being canalized and any effect on fatness is reversible theoretically. With the procession of childhood, tracking of BMI becomes stronger. Tracking in ratios of skin fold is attributable to the genetic factors that affect the phenotype through life course. There is also short-term tracking of adiposity between the ends of infancy and mid-childhood. Such tracking apply more to physique than adiposity. Height, physique and lean mass can be tracked mostly from early life within any population. Under ecological fluctuations, within population ranking in lean mass is likely to be more stable than within population ranking in fat mass. Next is induction of rate of maturation. The broader trend of precocious puberty could be traced to secular trends in growth and diet, although it may also be due to some specific pathological factors. Now, environmental factors exert stronger influence than genetic factors on initiation of menarche. Nutritional factors also have contrasting influence according to the time of life course when they act. Rapid childhood weight gain has been associated with earlier puberty. The underlying mechanism being the hormone leptin instigating the onset of puberty. The pivotal effect of early puberty is to advance the attainment of increased body fat in the body. This variability in the timing of puberty affects the body size and composition. The age at menarche and body composition is heritable among females. Those with early menarche attained a shorter final height as compared to those who matured later. Fatter and shorter mothers reproduce their phenotype in their daughters through early puberty, reduced growing period, and faster infant growth. The fact that fast growth occurred during infancy strongly reflects a regulatory mechanism that is non-genetic. Earlier menarche mothers signals their energy stores to their offspring in utero that lead to faster postnatal growth. Shorter height of early menarche mothers has been associated with lower birth weight in female offsprings owing to decrease in the size of the uterus. Faster postnatal rate of growth would therefore be a strategy to recover this deficit in the fetal growth. The association of body composition of offspring and phenotype of mother highlight the induction of body by transgenerational effect. Earlier menarche is strongly associated with risk of obesity and BMI independent of the influence of BMI during childhood period. Next is effect of transgeneration. Early life induction of body composition establishes parental effect where there is tracking of body size and physique subject to changes and exerts their biggest impact during fetal life and infancy. In each generation, induction of adiposity links the life course energy stores or storage with tailoring of rate of growth and maturation to the interaction of availability of energy and maternal phenotype. Now let us have a look at the limitations of phenotypic induction. Simple techniques have been adopted for measuring human body composition due to practical difficulties of taking measurements in large number of individuals at different ages. Moreover, body composition does not involve only masses of tissue, that is fat mass, lean mass, etc., but also component of size and shape of the body. A taller individual would have greater tissue mass, therefore variability in body size ought to be taken into account. Since fat depots are distributed outside the musculature and skeletal structure, body shape shows close association with body composition. Investigations based on phenotypic induction have been limited to such methods. Body mass index is used as an index of fatness of a body, and waist hip ratio, which is WHR, and skin fold thicknesses have been used to assess abdominal adiposity, or we can say regional adiposity. However, body shape and fat distribution cannot be assessed by BMI. Differences in WHR between individuals may highlight physique, hip girth as much as central adiposity. A high ratio of triceps to subscapular skin fold thickness. Skin fold may reveal a low value of triceps or high value of subscapular skin fold thickness, which reflects an independent index of abdominal fat that is not reliable. Now let us summarize what we have learned or we have spoken or discussed in this module. The life course induction and tracking of body composition consist of both lean mass and adiposity. Qualitative measurements are essential in interpreting these phenomena. Good maternal phenotype as revealed in large size and good amount of energy reserves are found to be associated with a larger neonate with greater lean mass that track into adulthood. Poor maternal phenotype leads to constraints in offspring size and lean mass that gets tracked through malnutrition of the offspring during postnatal stage. Under such circumstances, the ratio of lean mass to fat mass changes with potential influence on distribution of fat and insulin metabolism, especially with occurrence of catch-up growth. There is less evidence of tracking of adiposity from childhood onwards because the underlying predisposition for a level of fatness may be responsive to environmental and behavioral change. The phenotype of adiposity is mostly sensitive to the interaction between rate of growth during fetal and early postnatal period. This implies that exposure to maternal phenotype is the main determinant of induction of phenotype. Maternal phenotype induces the phenotype of offspring, which is suggested by the U-shaped association between birth weight and adult obesity status. One of the reasons for this could be that the low birth weight infants induces an extra metabolic load through their catch-up growth, while high weight infant would have already begun this in utero. This kind of hypothesis comes from studies linking higher weight at birth with decreased growth in first trimester and the higher level of obesity among the high birth weight babies. There is variation in transgenerational transfer of maternal capital from the perspective of evolution. High or best quality motherhood invest in bigger offspring and use its adipose reserves to increase the rate of infant growth so that the offspring could breed earlier than usual. This is a fitness enhancing strategy since the large body size improves the lactation energy. Similarly, poor quality motherhood produces small offspring who may require to extend their total period of growth to reach their reproductive period. Smaller offsprings may also change their investment strategies during the process of growth to gain higher adipose tissue. Across generations, the ontogenetic development of body composition is an adaptive strategy. Thank you very much.